Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So today I'm going to be talking to you about ESD, electrostatic discharge. So basically, when we work with computers, any type of technology, it has automatic discharge and electricity running through all the circuits. So I'm going to show you a small clip real quick to tell us about it.
Hi, I'm Brandon with Lenovo, and I'm here today to discuss electrostatic discharge. In this video, we're going to be going over three main topics. What is electrostatic discharge, what types of damage it can do to computer components, and common prevention methods. So what is electrostatic discharge? Electrostatic discharge, or ESD, is the sudden flow of static charge from one object with a higher charge to an object with a lower charge. Have you ever rubbed your socks on a carpet and then touched your friend and shocked them? Or have you ever been touching a doorknob or car door and received an electrical shock? If you have, then you've experienced ESD. The shock that you felt came from when the current on your body was passed to the other object. In this case, car door, doorknob, or your friend that you shocked.
Now, as you can see, ESD, it can go with any object. It's just a matter of if you have enough electrical currents going through your own body or between two objects.
This same type of discharge can occur when working in an open computer, damaging vital components.
This is your computer. This is your computer on ESD.
There are two basic types of damage that ESD can cause to electronic components: immediate and latent. Immediate damage is obvious. You can shock a component on the spot, causing it to quit functioning completely. This type of damage is rare, but at least you know that the component has been destroyed and needs to be replaced. Latent damage is a little more subtle. With latent damage, you've only discharged enough electricity into the component to degrade it and not completely destroy it. This type of damage can cause problems with the long-term functionality of a component and decrease its lifespan. So now I'm going to give you a brief overview of the contents of the ESD field kit. So this is the anti-static mat, and it folds out to form an ESD workspace that's portable. It can be used anywhere. You use this to ground yourself to the workspace, to ground yourself and the machine you're working on. This next piece is the alligator clip. You're going to use this when you want to ground yourself to the bare metal of a chassis. This piece here is the ESD wrist strap.
Now, the wrist strap is used to counteract the ESD. Now, that's one of the main objects we always use almost every time. So I'm going to give you a quick one on the ESD strap. And additional ways to avoid.
This video will discuss how to avoid electrostatic discharge damage to your computer and discuss prevention measures you can take. Electrostatic discharge, or ESD, is the sudden flow of electricity between two objects. ESD occurs when an object with a static electricity charge nears an object with a lower charge. Static electricity commonly builds up when there is friction between two materials, like walking on a rug or removing some type of plastic packaging. Some of the components in your computer are sensitive to ESD and could be damaged. The best method to prevent ESD is using a grounding wrist strap, mat, or table. These devices are designed to discharge static electricity safely. Since most people don't have access to professional grounding tools, we'll show you some tips and tricks to minimize accidental damage to your system. Whenever working inside of a computer, disconnect all cables, cords, and batteries before opening it, and press and hold the power button for 5 seconds after everything is disconnected. This will help protect you from an unexpected shock and also help to eliminate sources of ESD. The next step is to equalize the charge between yourself and the computer. The technical term for this is reaching zero potential, although it's often referred to as grounding. The easiest way to ensure you reach zero potential is to continuously touch an unpainted metal surface on your computer. New components come in a dark gray or silvery plastic anti-static bag. They protect the contents, so leave components in the bag until needed. When removing components from your computer, even damaged ones, immediately place them inside an empty anti-static bag. Most ESD issues can be avoided if you follow these simple steps. We'll now discuss a few methods to avoid building up extra static. Avoid clothing which conducts static electricity, like wool and synthetic fabrics. It's also helpful to remove metal jewelry. Collect all the tools and supplies you'll need before you open the system. You may create unexpected charge each time you walk away.
Now, when they are telling you to collect all your items together, that's so you won't have to walk back and forth like the sock concept. It also reduces any idea of the electrostatic charge. Now, as well as for having two additional objects and touching the unpainted part of the metal. The other part of it you could do is also make sure that before you start your project or anything that has to do with your electronics, try to keep in stance that you have your objects in a clear space, have all your tools separated, and your box materials in front of you all at once. Don't go running around finding other things, because it will cause electric discharge to come up, especially if you do not have the materials that you need to stop it, like the wrist strap or the pad. Before I give this next little clip, do we have any questions? No? All right. I'm going to show you a little fun little clip on ESD as well.
So you got that fancy new graphics card. Ah, so nice. Oh, but wait. You rub your feet on the carpet, you touch it, bzzz, and it's dead. So you've heard of static electricity, and you know that if you touch someone and zap it, that's bad. But how do you actually protect delicate, fragile electronic components from the dangers of static electricity? Layer number one is usually some kind of an anti-static padded foam, usually gray, or bubble wrap that is usually pink. Alright, so it's going to come inside one of those in all likelihood. Next up is your anti-static bag. This usually has some kind of a conductive material on the outside of the bag that allows electrostatic to be discharged without actually reaching the delicate components inside. Now, a common mistake that I see, particularly with motherboards, is people take that fresh motherboard out of the box, take it out of the bag, put it on top of the bag in order to call that an anti-static safe workstation. Wrong. The outside of the bag is conductive and not actually good to be used for that. So now that it's all naked and stuff, how do you keep your new expensive graphics card from being destroyed? First of all, don't handle it by the sensitive components on the PCB. Handle it by the edges or by things like heat sinks, which are less likely to be zapped into oblivion. Number two is ground yourself. Dissipate the static electricity by touching something that is connected to a ground, such as a power supply that is plugged in but turned off. Another option, if you can't remember to do that every time you move or every couple of minutes, is to use an anti-static wrist strap. You don't have to keep it on your wrist, you can instead keep it on your ankle, but this will constantly ground you out as long as the other end, which is usually an alligator clip, is connected to something that will dissipate the electricity. A great example would be something like a plugged-in power supply. Some people plug them directly into the wall, but make sure you plug it into the correct part of the wall or you might have a bit of a problem. Double check the way that the wiring works in your region. This TechTips takes no responsibility for bad things that happen to you. Thank you for checking out this video on anti-static. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share with any.
So that technically goes for all of the ESD electrostatic discharge. But also another way to control it is by using surge suppressors, which technically you can get online. Not always the greatest condition, but they work. And you can also turn down the humidity in your room to over 60. It's hard to live with it. I understand that. It is difficult to stay in. But it also It also zeroes out the discharge in the room. That way it makes your workspace easier to deal with, and it's much safer. Now we're going to go back real quick, and we're going to watch the rest of this. With the rest of the field strap, he'll explain it to you.
Finally, we have the cable. This connects the wrist strap to the mat and to the alligator clip. The kit you have may differ from the one that I just showed, but the grounding methods for every kit will be the same. If you have a larger mat in your kit, you can use it to ground a server or a desktop or anything that will fit on the mat. The mat and strap are your first line of defense against ESD, but there are a few other considerations to take into account. You can make yourself and the computer have zero potential of ESD by touching bare metal on the inside of the chassis, or by touching the power supply case constantly while working inside the computer. Most computer components will come inside of a static protective bag. It's a good idea to leave the components in the bag until the moment you're ready to replace them in the system. You'll generally want to be standing when you're working inside of a computer. Sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair can cause static to build up, increasing the chances of an electrostatic discharge. You'll want to be standing firmly on a hard surface, and the machine that you're operating on should be sitting on the table. You'll want to make sure to disconnect all cables and cords from the back of your system. Power, keyboard, mouse, monitor, peripherals, everything. Everything. Clothing is insulated, so it can maintain a static field separate from your body. You want to avoid wearing clothes that are prone to gather static.
Now this is going to give you a few examples of what you never want to do. And I know it's a little bit over the edge, but he's making a statement.
You probably already have a good idea of what type of clothes these are, but it's a bad idea to wear wool or some synthetics. It's a good idea to wear short sleeves to minimize the risk of your clothing touching computer components. Did you know that lumberjacks can work on computers too? Whoa! In order to prevent ESD and reduce other complications, you'll want to remove any jewelry or accessories.
Now I've seen this a lot. I've seen people working with computers that had metal jewelry on, watches, and additional necklaces and stuff. This can also cause ESD buildup as well. And it can also short your computer. You don't even have to do anything, just touch it.
Before operating on a computer.
What is wrong with you?
This concludes our video on electrostatic discharge. Hopefully you've come away with a good idea of what ESD is, what types of damage it does to electronics, and how to prevent it.
Now Lenovo and Dell, they're known for two top companies to have leading tips on how to prevent damages to electronics. So if ever want to find out more information on that, I would suggest that you research off their websites. As for the rest of the ESD electrostatic discharge, I believe that concludes my presentation.